today's talk that I'm going to give is a model that we use to tell our clients' stories. And the reason why I like to use this as a presentation for people is it's a way that you can also tell your story. So if you're trying to look to how to tell both a brand story or a human story or whatever it is, this model, this like 12-step model of telling the hero's journey is a really good way of getting a story across even if you're not that great at telling a story, right? So if you just stick to the model, you'll be able to tell a really good story. Now, if you need to Google this later on, you'll find it. It's not something I made up. There's a book called The Hero with 1,000 Faces, right? Joseph Campbell wrote it, and so the model's stolen from that. But it's one that we use all the time, and it's one that we use with every single client that we do personal branding for, but also for brands that we help with, right? We want to understand their story, and you can use it in multiple different ways. So this is going to take me about 10 minutes, but you could do it in 3 minutes. You could do it in one written post. You could do it in multiple posts. So there's heaps of different applications. You often see people do this at the start of a keynote, right? They'll tell you their life story in about 35 seconds, and they'll take you on a journey, but they'll use this model to do that. So the length and size of it and how you use it can change. Today it's going to take me about 10 minutes, probably longer. Let's be honest, Freya's probably going to tell me off for running over time, but we'll see how we go. So starting up, first step, status quo. So status quo is the ordinary world. It's where the journey starts. And for me, that journey started when I moved back to New Zealand. I hadn't lived here for 12 years. I had been a hotelier. I ran hotels all around Australia and restaurants in London, lived in Japan. I spent my whole adult life away from New Zealand. But I came back to New Zealand, and the life that we were living was this one of no idea what we're going to do, no idea what the future holds for us, but let's just network the hell out of Auckland. Let's just meet as many people as we can. And so that then, step 2, which is inciting incident. The inciting incident is the thing that stirs the journey on, right? It's the thing that gets the story going. And for us, that was COVID. COVID happened 6 months into being back in New Zealand. Didn't know what we're going to do, weren't sure where we were going to go in the future anymore because hotels had disappeared in terms of getting jobs there, which I'd come from. So we really didn't know. So we had to double down. We had to figure out what are we going to do now that the world's just gone into lockdown. But what I had done is I'd been putting content out on LinkedIn. I'd been networking with as many people as I can in Auckland, right, as I said in status quo. And all those people that I had been networking with said to me, how are you doing that stuff on LinkedIn? Can you do it for us? And that hence was the birth of the Attention Seeker, us helping people to do the same thing I was doing for myself, but for them. But at first, before all of that happened, I hit the refusal. So the refusal is that someone set the challenge of the inciting incident, and at first you're like, no, I don't want to do that. And so for me, that first 2 weeks of lockdown was not good. Like I didn't like it, I didn't know where I was going. I just convinced Claire to quit her job and get rid of our high-rise apartment in Melbourne and move back to Auckland and live in our mate's spare bedroom. And not have a job, not have an income, not have anything actually, and then we were now locked down. And so if you know this screen, this is Assassin's Creed. And I got really familiar with Assassin's Creed for the first 2 weeks of lockdown, and I played lots of it, hundreds and hundreds of hours of it, well, for the whole lockdown. And in that first 2 weeks, I know now that it was like a case of depression, which I didn't know what that was because I'd never suffered any mental illness or mental health issues or anything like that. It's not something I was used to. But I know now that's what it was when I look back. I can see that that's what was going through. I went real internal, and I just shut up and sat down and cut people up on Assassin's Creed. And that's what I did for 2 weeks straight. But the next stage of the story is that you find your mentor. And for me, my mentor through the story was Claire. So Claire was able to help me get out of this. She helped me. She recognized what it was pretty fast. And she realized that was a part of Stan she'd never seen before. And so what she did was she said, go sit in that room with your Xbox and play Assassin's Creed. I'll bring you food every few hours to keep you alive. And just do that. Just figure your shit out. Just go in there and get some time to yourself. She knows that I'm like naturally quite introverted. And so for me, being on my own is really good for me. It's really energizing. And so I like that, right? And she knew that. So we're living with friends at the time, remember? So they were wondering, what the hell's Stan doing? Like, he doesn't come out of the room and he just sits in there and this is our house and why is he in my spare bedroom? Blah, blah, blah. And Claire's like, just leave him. Like, he needs it. And then they figured it out too, and they were really good about it as well. And they allowed me to just have that time. And all that time on my own, slicing people up. Oh, I don't know what I've just done. Meant that I knew what to do next. I'd found the solution of what I had to get done. And so what it was, oh, look, it's transcribing me. Look at that. If I need me, yes. I should have done that from the start. I could just push play. And so this is what you get when you carry a keyboard to bloody do your presentations instead of a clicker. So what I did know is that what I had done before we went into lockdown was what I had to do to get out of it, right? That I had to network with people, I had to put out lots of content, and I had to continually build a brand with this audience that I'd found. And so the point of no return in the story is where the hero decides to take on the adventure. They decide to take on the challenge. And so I did. I decided to take on this challenge, and I said yes to all these people who started asking me for help with LinkedIn and building their personal brand. And I started hiring some people. I convinced Alicia, who's standing behind the bar, to come home to New Zealand after about 12 or 13 years away. As she'd said many times, I will never go back to that country ever. But somehow I managed to convince her. Luckily, COVID had happened to Melbourne as well, and she realized that she didn't want to be in hotels. So she came back and worked for me, and then we hired Krupa, who was our first hire outside of Alicia. So the first hire for someone you didn't know, right? And if you're a business owner, you know that point in time where it's the first person you didn't know that you hire, and it's always a big deal for you because, you know, Alicia was doing me a favor. She didn't get paid for the first 4 months, I don't think. And Krupa was different though. Like when we hired Krupa, I had to have a proper salary and a contract and all these things because she thought she was coming and working for a proper company. And then we hired Libby, and Libby was our third hire. And so now we've got people's rent that are reliant on us, mortgages, food, all this sort of stuff. There was no turning back now. Like we had to go. This had to work now. We had to move forward. And so we get into what I call the Rocky montage, but this is that moment in the movie, and I say Rocky montage and it gets lost on some people, but there's enough grey hairs in this room to understand what this means. It's the time where you're punching the beef carcasses and you run out Philadelphia stairs and you're doing all the training to get the body you need to go beat Apollo. And so it's that moment, right? You all know in the movies, it's where the hero learns a bunch of stuff and has that real cool montage of all the cool stuff happening. And that was us. We started hiring heaps of people. We started putting out more content, networking more. And this particular thing was, I think we're at 10, 11. I think we just hired Connor, right? He's in this room. And we hired a communication consultant even to come and do some stuff with us. And it was fun. Like it was a real cool moment. Like we had an actual office, got outside of our lounge. And first of all, we got our own apartment. And then second of all, we got out of that apartment and had an office in Commercial Bay. And it was a cool time. It was a cool time for the business. We're doing lots of cool stuff. And like we really felt we had hit our straps. But we did inflate the team quite a lot. And so at one stage in 2021, we were sitting about 13 staff at that point. And it was feeling good. But then we took on this project. And this was in February last year. And this perseverance stage is like a first little stumbling block, right? You remember this, like, the hero will be learning all the things and he stumbles a little bit. And this is our first stumbling block that we thought, you know what, why don't we go and fit out a 328 square meter gym that's not ours and we'll spend a bunch of money in it and put in the studios and do all the stuff, and 16 hours a day, 7 days a week for about 8 months. Claire, I lost her for 8 months because she became Treaty Claire, and she just lived in overalls and was covered in paint, head to toe, all the time. So in this building, Claire did all the painting, all the sanding, all the decorating, the whole thing. And I just went and had coffees with people to try to grow the business. And then in the evening, I would come and pretend to sweep up after her while she did all the work. These hands aren't really made for doing physical labor. They're made for, they're not even really made for keyboards, let's be honest, after the day. They're good for holding a cup of coffee, I'll tell you that much. But we did that, we built the studio. And then as we were going through the studio build and we just invested all this money into it, we hit the death and rebirth. Oh, there we go again. I'm going to screw something else. Oh, look, stop subtitles. Look at that. Yeah, that deserves a round of applause. Give me that. The death and the rebirth is that point in the movie where the hero really hits rock bottom, right? It's where Apollo knocks out Rocky. It's all of it, right? You know all the movies. It's that piece in the middle where the conflict really comes to a head. And for us, this was last year. Our winter last year was super tough. It was real hard for us. Like, we lost a lot of clients, not just due to our fault, just from clients not being able to pay us. We took a bunch of clients early on in that year that we probably shouldn't have. Like, they probably swindled too many people and managed to convince them to come on with us, and they probably shouldn't have. And we took on clients that just didn't have the right business model for what we did, and just bad decisions, and clients who then meant that we had about 400 and something K worth of contracts just ghost us. And that was huge for us because we had 13 staff by that point, right? And so we had all these salaries to pay. We had this new fit out we'd just done, and we just spent all our reserves fitting this place out. It was almost break point. Like, I almost thought it was going to be over. We started talking about redundancies. We started talking about what do we do to cut things to try to get through this next stage. And it was a real tough moment for us. And so what I did instead, I got into this mindset of austerity, like cut, what can I cut? And so I said to Claire at some stage, like, hey, we've got to go. Like, I got to get out of here because all I'm going to do is burn this place down if we don't. Like, if I can't get some space to clear my head. And so we took off to Brisbane where her parents were for a week, and I just vegged out for a week and just, again, went into that mode of wanting to play Assassin's Creed. But what that week did is it gave me the space to think of how to move forward. And it was the same thing I've always done, right? Was to start putting out content again, start networking, and start to rebuild. And so that's what we did. I came back, I knew the only way out of this problem was to sell myself out of it. That revenue, like in hotels we would say, revenue hides all sins. And so I just needed more revenue, and I could fix everything if I just had more money, right? That old chestnut. But that's what I did. I knew how to do it. Network more, put out more content, speak on more stages, and the business will flow. That's what I knew would do, all I had to do. And so that's what I did. So I got back into the rebuild. And on that road back to, I guess, a better place was at the start of this year, we picked up, for us, a massive client, right? So we picked up 1NZ, and they came and asked us to take over their whole social things, right? And up until that stage, we had really just done personal brands and small businesses' social media, right? Nothing too crazy. And then this comes along and essentially is the same, their one contract was the same as all our other revenue, right? Like, it was huge. We were a bit scared at first, and we're like, fuck, can we do this? And then I look at Nate, and he's like, we've got no choice. Like, fuck, what are you doing? We've got to take it. Plus, he wanted his pay rise, so we had to do that. But we did. And why it was such a good thing is that this particular screenshot is from a video we did for 1NZ on that cycle behind you, where it was, I don't know if you remember, but people didn't really like the 1NZ rebrand when it first started, and I don't know if people still do, but they didn't at the beginning, that's for sure. And so we had them read out all the mean comments that people had made about it, right? It ended up being, from a comments versus views perspective, the most engaging video that TikTok had ever had on its ad platform ever globally. They wrote a case study about it, they pushed it everywhere, we spoke on stages about it, and it proved to us, ourselves mostly, but also to 1NZ, that shit, this little small outfit can do this. Like, they can actually take it, they understand social better than anyone that we've worked with so far. And at that point in time, we understood social almost better than anyone in the world at that point in time. We'd also had one of the largest B2B TikTok accounts in the world, we still do. And so we really had to start clawing back. We're on the road back. The resurrection, this is that point in the movie where the bad guy gets back up and tries to shoot the hero in the back right at the last scene, and the hero turns around and shoots him and they're all dead. And there's that piece, right? You know the bit in the movie. That's this bit. And the reason why I've got a picture of my team there is because you just do the math as a business owner on what that salary count is. And that was the thing that to service 1NZ and to service all these new clients who started to come because of our success that we're having, we had to now inflate our team again. And so now I had those same feelings I had back in 2021 and 2022 winter of, holy shit, are we going to make payroll every month? Are we going to be able to do this? But luckily enough, we knew what to do. It was to network more, put out more content, meet more people, talk on more stages, all the things we'd always done. We'd learnt this lesson already, we knew. And so, with this last slide, that the guys nicely jazzed up for us, is that's New York, right? And we're off to New York next week on Thursday. There's 3 of us going. We're going for 10 weeks. We've got an amazing team who's going to stay back, so there's 21 of us now. 18 people are staying back here to make sure this operation stays afloat and does what it does and do what we do best. And the other 3 of us and going to New York to see, is this the next office? Is this where we put the new place, right? And so it's like a cool thing to be. Like, we're probably gonna, hopefully don't be in the same position when we build this thing, and I don't really want Claire being tradie Claire in New York, but we think we can do it. We wouldn't be spending all the money it's gonna take to go there to do it. We know what we need to do, is put out more content, keep building our brand, speak on more stages, network with more people. So we're not going to New York to do sales. We're going to New York to put out more content, talk on more stages, network with more people, and that's it. And so, that's my hero's journey. Oh, we'll get the questions later, right? We'll do your questions later. All right.
What makes a good ideal client for each of you? I like that one.
For us, we have two sort of ideal clients because our business is sort of divided. So one side is personal brand clients. The perfect client for that are the business owners or business leaders who their personal brand is a big part of success in the story of the company. So that's not every brand. Some brands are purely just this brand face and others have a person behind it. So those brands we work really well with. That's our bread and butter. And then on the other side is what we call challenger brands. So in the short form video space, TikTok, Instagram Reels, things like that, we obviously do that pretty well. Our thing for short form video is like making things go viral. Like with all our clients, it's about how can we get them to go viral, getting the millions of views per video that they get out as an alternative to spending money getting impressions, right, through Facebook or whatever it is. We make organic content that goes viral on its own. So for brands when we say challenger brand, it's the brands who are taking on the status quo, who are coming to market with something different and are taking on their incumbent, right? So if you take 1NZ as an example for us, that's them. They're taking on Spark. And the reason why they're good for us is that they will try stuff that is different because they're not defending. They're having to attack 1NZ. And so we love a challenger brand because short form video is still new in New Zealand. It's still a new thing. Like, it's not quite like it is in the US and things like that. So you have to try stuff, and it's uncomfortable for a lot of people to be on TikTok or Instagram Reels and things like that. So challenger brands are more likely to do that with us than, say, the incumbents.
Nice answer.
What advice would you give a brand that has a decent physical presence but is struggling to grow their social following?
Oh, yeah. Most of the time when we see this happening, where people are struggling to do social, is because, well, actually, Nate over there, who's our ECD, the old guy in the team, just give him a shit. He said a real good thing in a conversation with a client, which was that people forget that in social media, the most important part of it is social. And they think it's media first, and so they make ads and they run content and they do all the stuff. But they forget the most important part, which is social, which is it's a two-way communication, because social media is an entertainment platform that we go and spend countless hours on. But you could choose to spend it on TikTok, or you could choose to spend it on Netflix, right? And Netflix, it's one way. And so I don't know about you guys, but I don't have the budget to create Netflix documentaries or movies or whatever. But on social content, what we see most people not doing well is that they are just making content and yelling at their audience, right? And it's one way. They're just yelling at them like, look at me, look how great I am. And like, no one really cares. Like, no one really cares how cool you are. What they want to know is like, are we together? Are we here? Are you listening to me? When I comment, are you responding? Is your videos being dictated by what we say, by what our customers say? And so like, if we continue with 1NZ and look at that, part of their strategy for them is that Mal, who's sitting in the middle there, replies to about 400 comments a day for 1NZ, and we have someone starting next week to do another 400 with her, because it's so important that we are communicating. Every comment gets answered, everyone gets responded to, and you think about how huge 1NZ and how many comments and how many customer service stuff and things must come through for a telco that size. That if you're an e-commerce platform, you're probably nowhere near as where they are, so you can put in the effort and get those comments replied to. And trust me, like, we went from almost, something like a 90% negative sentiment to what was the other day, Mal? 84 or something? 85 or something? 85% positive sentiment in a 6 months. Yeah, exactly.
Exactly. Amazing.
That definitely helped our case. But yeah, exactly. It turned it around because we were in the comments replying to them and people felt like they were getting heard. Yeah.
Which campaign or tactic do you think had the biggest impact when it comes to 1NZ choosing to work with you guys? Oh,
we know exactly the video that it came from because well, one, Kimberly, our social lead for 1NZ, told us so, but also in the initial email she sent us, it had quotes directly from the video, which was a video where Joni did a presentation to me convincing me to propose to my partner, Claire. And
Who's not seen it?
yeah, so it's like 4, 5, 6 million views, something like that. It went bananas. And Kimberly, that is, emailed us saying something, can Claire come, which was a direct quote from it, and then hashtag anything for Claire, and which was like a trending hashtag for a bit on TikTok. And so it was that one video I guess it was the thing that prompted her to email us. She had been watching us on maternity leave while she was in the UK. When she got back to New Zealand, got back into work, she was told, you need to find an agency. And that night we popped up again, and it reminded her of it. And then she realized, oh, hang on, these guys are in New Zealand, thinking that we were international because she'd seen us for the first time in UK. But then that video is what made her email us. And that thing of when 1NZ came, that prompted them. That's what continues to happen on that platform, which is real weird. Like, we'll have videos go viral and get multiple millions of views, and then from that, we'll get a bunch of emails in with people quoting the video and then asking, can you work with us? Which is it's a real weird thing, but it's just, when 5 million people see it, you only need four of that 5 million to be the right person. So that was pretty cool. So that was 1NZ, that's where they came from, and which is cool, because then I talked to my accountant the last couple of weeks, because we're getting married in January now, and I said to her, can I write off the whole wedding because it's directly related? And she's like, if you film it, make content, yes, because you can show where that came from and where it is. So that's pretty cool. So, I mean, I wanted to get married for other reasons, of course, but it makes it so much easier when I can write the whole thing off.
Awesome. So good.
Oh, shit.
Yes. Yes.
Damn it.
Surely
Said
you
it out
girl
loud.
math that
Yeah,
somehow.
girl math that one out.
Awesome. All right, last one, and I believe this is for each of you. So, any big goals you want to achieve by the end of the year? Or which big goal do you want to achieve by the end of the year? Oh, it doesn't stipulate, so
I
do
mean,
what you want.
I kind of already said mine. We're going to New York,
Yeah.
and so our big goal for that is actually not to sign any clients or anything like that. It's just to have the confidence that we go back next year full time. So this is a feasibility study. So if we can spend this 10 weeks, meet a lot of people, network a lot of people, do a lot of good content, and build ourselves a brand in that city, and have the confidence to go back, because it's not going to be cheap to go back. It's not cheap going the first time, so it's not going to be cheap going back full time. That would be awesome, because it's just this itch I've been wanting to scratch, and I'm hoping that it plays out. I wouldn't be going if I didn't think I could do it. But yeah, I'd love to be able to go back next year and make a real play at New York.